Hey everyone, it's so nice to see you again. My name is Sharon Chaden Burks, and I am the host for this idea networking session between transitioning teachers and instructional designers. We've been doing this for 4.5 years, hard to believe, and we've been doing this so long that Mandy was actually a guest speaker on here 4 years ago, and she is back. And I'm super excited to, Mandy Brown is her name.
Mhm.
And she is here to catch us up and also tell us, because this is a whole new group of people, how she got into the field. And then our second guest speaker is Corey Katz, who a couple years ago was a participant in these networking sessions, and now he has been in his job for a couple years. So very excited to have both of them on. Please write down your questions for breakout rooms, and you will have time to ask them questions in breakout rooms. And I will stay out here in the main room if you care to chat with me. I did not introduce where I am at. I am a senior instructional designer for Sinclair Community College. So that is where I am. And I am going to pass it off to Mandy.
Hey y'all. I am a senior ID in Central Texas. I, before that, like before my transition, I was an English teacher for a discipline alternative education program. I had to be certified in English, all the levels of English, GT, ESL, pre-AP, SPED, all the different things, because all of those kids can get in trouble. And to keep myself from going insane, quite literally, I developed e-learning so that I could send my kids to the places they needed to go. My It was really lovely because I had this lovely thing where I would send them exactly to the thing they needed. Like they would do an assessment, they'd go to the exact same thing they needed. I'd have like table groups and stuff, and my principal had the audacity to ask me when I was going to really teach. And so I knew then, like, oh, well, I guess I'm not here for long. And then COVID hit, and my husband and I are both educators, and we are both high risk for our health. And Texas didn't make very scientifically sound choices, and we were forced to transition out of the classroom. Um, he and I both chose to enroll in a program that would give us all the content that we needed to help us make that transition, because I needed to transition while also applying for jobs. And I didn't have the bandwidth to try to find a lot of the free stuff out there, though there is a lot of free stuff out there, and a lot of it is good quality. It's just a matter of having the bandwidth to look through it. I posted on LinkedIn pretty regularly. And at one point, I made a post about my daughter who was online at the time going through school. She was actually like right behind me. I had the camera set up so that I could see her off to the side. Um, and she was really concerned about being in the background during my interviews. And I wrote a post on LinkedIn about how I don't want to work anywhere where someone's going to be upset that my kid is in the background. And my manager, my would-be manager, found that, said, "This really speaks to my soul." I connected with her and she went, "We have a job if you want to apply for it." And that is how I got my first ID role. I was hired, or I thought I was hired as an e-learning developer. I was hired as the e-learning developer. So I got kind of thrown into the mix of things. It was for a language acquisition company, so I was kind of using those ESL skills to transition over. And then after a year being there and doing a lot of cool projects, the CEO promptly put on the shelf. I applied for other roles, and now I work for a global consulting firm as a senior ID. And I run a newsletter and support other people making their transition as well.
I love that that was the connection that you had to your would-be boss,
Yeah.
connecting on that level.
You never know where it's going to happen. Like I highly recommend posting on LinkedIn, um, even if it's simply, "Hey, I'm learning about this thing," and just kind of getting your voice out there so that people know about you.
All right. Oh, thank you all for putting your LinkedIn profiles in the in the chat so people can connect with you. And Corey, I'm gonna hand it off to you.
Great. Hello, everyone. Good evening on the East Coast. I'm not sure what time it is where you are, but it's great to see you. Um, I was a professor of philosophy, a tenure track assistant professor of philosophy, and basically when they hired me, they said, "Oh, you're going to teach Intro to Philosophy online." And I said, "Oh, I've never done that before." This was 2019. I haven't done that before. Where's the course?" And they're like, "Well, the course doesn't exist." So the first online course that I ever took was about how to make online courses through Quality Matters. And I built Intro to Philosophy course, and I ran it multiple times. And then I built an medical ethics, a bioethics course as well. And I was teaching in the classroom. And then obviously pandemic and teaching synchronously online in Zoom sessions and also running asynchronous courses. Um, and then it was the third year where they told us that they weren't going to be able to give us anything for our cost of living raises. During the pandemic, they actually volunteered some of our salary to give back to the school. They volunteered it from us. So I was like, I can't stay here. This school is um, going down the tubes. And I had other interviews. And that was when I talked to a cousin who is an instructional designer for one of the big accounting firms. And she's like, you could be an instructional designer. And I had never thought of that. And then I thought, what I really care about is teaching and learning. And there's so many different ways to promote teaching and learning besides being in front of the class. So then I started using a lot of the free resources that Mandy talked about to just learn about instructional design. Um, I think one thing that I found important was to kind of learn the language and the topics and the way instructional designers, like, what are they talking about and what are they thinking about, so that you can talk about those things in in interviews. Um, and then I really just I applied to eCornell, which is Cornell's professional development certificate, online certificate department. It's basically Cornell's external education that creates professional development online courses. And I'm like the whatever 8% of people that get a job just from applying to it out of the blue. And I've been there for 2 years and been promoted to instructional designer. They have like a path for growth from an associate instructional designer to instructional designer. And I can't believe I feel very lucky that it worked out. Along the way, I converted my resume from professor speak to instructional design speak. I didn't build an e-learning portfolio, but I did take screenshots and talk about different online assignments that I'd created in my own courses. And I'm happy to talk about other strategies I used um, as well. I mean, and I will say that one thing that I remember that came up in the interview was the person who hired me said, I can train you to use Canvas. I can train you to, I can train you some HTML that you need to know, but I can't train project management. I can't train relationship management with faculty or subject matter experts. I can't train you in time management. So you might have so many skills from your um, quote unquote soft skills from what you do, that I found it valuable to be able to speak about them in the interview. So that's kind of my journey and my tips. So thanks for listening.
I want to follow up on something that you said about the skills that y people don't usually teach. Um, I found that teaching makes incredible project managers, absolutely incredible project managers. And if you think about it, when you are teaching a curriculum, you know your end goal, where the students have to be by the time they're done with you. And you already are thinking about the milestones that they have to reach along the way to reach those goals. So just use it's the same skill set. It's just, I like to say that in project management, it's not just you. There are other people involved that do parts of the project. And um, sometimes people don't get their things done, and then the deadline moves. So I think it's easier sometimes. But also it kind of depends on your caseload. If you're managing a lot of projects, it can be just as challenging. But also, Corey, like most teachers have really good interpersonal skills and relationship management. Like you were saying, have you found that a lot of you using your interpersonal skills in your current job, Corey?
I mean, yeah, I mean, um, one thing that is somewhat different than being, but I mean, that's actually what I'm probably going to say was what I was going to say is false because K to 12 teachers and higher ed educators work with other people all of the time. But I did find that I work with people a lot more than I did when I was designing the course and teaching the course myself and researching and publishing myself and sitting in the library myself and writing myself. But I'm actually way happier about that because it's really nice to work with other people.
Yeah, I agree. There's a point when it can be a very lonely experience to just be you in front of a room of 50 people and no one ever really, gets to know you. I've really enjoyed um the that part of the project management side and the relationships is you kind of have to figure out how people like to communicate as an ID. Not everyone does well with emails. Sometimes you have to drop by their office or you have to call them or you have to say, are you the kind of person that I just need to make an event on the calendar that you see coming up and then you'll start working? I figured that out a few times. Like, why didn't you get any? Oh, you. And he just said, he's just like, I just need to have, even if we don't talk about anything, if it's on the calendar, I'll actually do the work for it. I'm like, that was very honest.
I find the best question, like for especially working with a subject matter expert, is I just say, how do you like to work?
Yes.
What tools do you use to communicate and how do you manage your time? Um, and then I just kind of have to shift, um, because you don't want to be, you don't want them to be waiting on you. When
Right.
Yep.
they have that half an hour where they can open their email and do something, you want that email to say, here's the three things we need you to do,
Mhm.
and here's the document where to put them and everything like that. You don't want them to be waiting on you because they might not be available till next week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then and now your project is behind.
Yeah. Mandy, did you want to add on to that?
Yeah, so I'm autistic. If you are on LinkedIn for like 5 minutes, you'll figure that out. And I actually use something called a personal user manual when I'm working with subject matter experts. So when I meet them for the first time, I'm like, hey, here's the best way to work with me because my brain is wired this way. I need XYZ things. Feedback needs to be like this. I'm very literal. So if you tell me that the only thing that should be on this slide are these three words, literally that will be what happens. So consider like what you're saying, right? So I go through all those things, and what I have found when I do that is then the stakeholders are willing to share with me. So I had one subject matter expert that was like, I'm dyslexic, which is huge to know because if I then hand a bunch of text over to her, it's going to be really hard for her to look at.
Mhm.
Whereas I can chunk it out for her. I can be like, hey, here's the like three things I need you to actually look at. If you want to look at the whole thing, here's the whole thing. And I can like use the time wisely that way. One thing that I have had to kind of uh, impress upon some of my mentees is that instructional designers' jobs don't exist without our subject matter experts.
Yeah.
So we need to be as um, easy to work with as possible. Now, granted, some stakeholders are not very easy to work with, but we still have to figure out those quirks and how to work around them and whatnot.
Awesome. All right. We have a couple minutes before we need to head to breakout rooms. I did want to share this AI tool I came across this week. I'm always finding out about AI tools. This one is useresume.ai. Could be useful. Haven't tried it, but I just wanted to pass it along in case there are some of you that are at this stage where you're like, oh my God, I have to retool this thing, and it might be worth trying out.
Don't get a resume that has your face on it though, unless you are in Europe. A lot of HR
Are people
companies
doing
will. Yeah, so there's a lot of people who like put pictures on, like, because they go to Canva or something and they find like one that has like a picture of themselves on it,
that?
and HR throws those out.
Yeah.
Please don't put your picture on your resume unless you are in Europe, because that is actually the expectation there. Um,
I
yeah.
remember that happening a couple times on applications that I did for like a Japanese summer tutor or something. Like I was applied to a couple,
Yeah,
and
like
like
overseas, there might be an expectation, but not
I
here.
was like, you want my picture? Why? I don't know. Okay. All right. There are a few things that I want to share with you before we do our whole group Q&A. The first thing is our next session is going to be on Tuesday, April 1st, and it's not April Fool's. We will be there. There will be no pranks. And I'm putting okay, first there's the feedback form tonight, and then here's the registration link for April 1st, and we always do 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to get signed up now, you can. I have a couple resources to share. Super excited about the first one. Well, I'm super excited about two of them because they relate to stuff that I've worked on. Is that gonna, yeah, I think it's gonna share the right thing. Am I sharing something that says classroom starters?
Yep.
Okay. This is our AI cookbook for our community college. I worked on a team to create a tool that would encourage our faculty to use AI. And so we ran with the theme of a cookbook. And there are little recipe cards in here, some for faculty and some for staff, so for administration purposes. And they include prompts that they can just copy and paste into ChatGPT. And there are little links in here called Chef's Demos where it'll take you out to that chat where we have done that. And so they can see the output and how you interact with ChatGPT. So I am super excited about this. We publish this with under Creative Commons license, so you're free to take a look at it and use any of these prompts that are helpful to you. Like I said, there's both classroom and workplace prompts in here. So that is my first thing to share. Second thing, tomorrow, actually this whole week, there is the coaching and mentoring and L&D gathering, which is online. It's free. I think they take donations if you want to donate, but there are free sessions for you to go in. There's one that looks super interesting, at least to me, tomorrow, where this one. 10 job application secrets from someone who hired 62 people in 2024. That seems super cool. I wonder what he's going to say. So take a look. I'll put this in the chat too for if in case you feel like going to that. And last thing, this is not related to jobs at all, but I have started a new YouTube channel. I'm super excited. It's like brand new, and it's called The Story Dish. And so the concept is I tell a story and the visual is me making something. So it's just fun. It's not instructional. I try to make the visuals match the story that I'm telling. And this first episode is about my first middle school boyfriend. Very high drama. So please do check out the story dish too, and I'll put that in the chat.
That's
And
amazing. I see a very recipe themed thing going on.
yeah. All right, so enough of my shameless promotion, and back to our whole group Q&A. And please feel free to unmute yourself or put your question. There was a question right before we went to breakout rooms. Krista asked, "Do you suggest investing in project management certification, like Scrum?" I'll weigh in, and then I'll let Mandy and Corey weigh in on this. I don't think it's necessary if you don't want to get too into software development or product development. I think that those types of jobs and sometimes publishing can get into that too, since they are less print-based and more electronic software-based. Um, unless that's something that you feel like getting into, there's plenty of ways to show your project management skills without Scrum. Mandy, Corey, would you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I told my group because this question was asked in my group as well, that a lot of times companies don't care about the credentials you have. They care about what you can accomplish. And that's not necessarily true for higher ed ID roles, but in corporate, that's what they care about. So whatever you have in your portfolio is really what's going to stand out.
Yeah, and I would say you can always advance your project management skills once you're in a role. Um, but I agree, I don't have a sense that project management credentials are something that you need to get your instructional design role. Of course, once you're in the instructional design role, if you want to advance, and take on more complex projects, maybe it would be helpful later. Um, but I'm a big fan of start the work first and then figure out later what credentials might help you advance. And it may not be that if you don't want to be an actual project manager.
Good advice. Find out what you want to do. Only have one life to live.
But obviously some of the ID boot camps and certificates and trainings can be helpful, but I think I have the same sense as Mandy, but not because you're putting it on your resume, but because you have a product outcome that something that you've made that shows your instructional design um, chops.
Mhm.
Daisy, do you want me to put you on the spot in front of everyone?
Sure.
Daisy just started her new job.
Oh, yes. Daisy, do you want to celebrate? Tell us.
Yeah, so I just today was my first day in person. Yesterday was my official first day, and it was a remote day. So I have a hybrid position, and I as a training specialist. So I'll be developing. I have three training projects right now that I'll be working on already on day two, and yeah, I my job search was 7 months long. So I was interviewing many rejections. But after I completed my uh, a project using Articulate Storyline is when I started getting more interviews and actually was able to get two job offers. And I chose this training specialist one. So yeah.
That's so awesome. I mean, it happens, right? It does happen. It just takes a while. I saw yeah, okay, so that link to the cookbook, it might be an institutional link that you can't access if you're not part of the institution, but I will include that PDF in the email that I send to everyone who registers. and then ask them if they're going to get a public facing link that I can share out on social media. I'll make sure to do that. What other questions are there out there? Man, it's so great to hear good news, isn't it? It happens sometimes. I have had people reach out to me in the last couple weeks because of the mass layoffs and firings that are you can't just wake up some days and you're like, all right, well, that's happening now. So it is affecting people that I know. So I know that there are more and more people in this boat who are looking for jobs. So I'll always want to help out. And okay, Mandy put her
Yeah, it's
newsletter.
my website.
Awesome.
Um,
Go ahead.
I also have a list of ID consulting and staffing firms. Let me put that in here for y'all
Yeah.
too. So with all the layoffs and whatnot, it can be really helpful to join an organization that supports other companies because then potentially there's a little bit less waves. So just something to consider right now.
All right, we have a couple minutes left if there are any more questions. I've been using a lot of AI this week and I'm just continually like, I'm making a lot of content and just designing and building and saying, all right, can you check it? Because we really need to get this project done. And some of the stuff, like it's so helpful just for getting like a draft done and then having them tell me this is how I want to make it more specialized or personal to what I think our students need. Corey put his profile in the chat. Thank you.
Sharon, we were talking about AI in our breakout room too, and that's also how I'm finding starting to use AI for instructional design is that it's an idea partner or a summarizer or a first drafter or make me draft like three quiz questions. Oh, hey, buddy. Uh, um, and then like oh, I don't like any of those. Make three more, and then you know that kind of thing, as opposed to just spitting out a final product.
Yeah, you can take the kids out of the room, but you can't take the room out of the kids. I don't know. It's late.
Daisy, congratulations. I was just curious in all of your interviews if AI came up as a topic.
No, AI did not come up as a topic, but in the group with Corey, I had mentioned I'm also part of a boot camp for instructional design, and our one of our leaders was saying how using AI in your portfolio project could be a really great way for you to stand out uh, in the job pool because a lot of hiring managers are looking for it and it's going to set you apart. So he mentions that, finding a way to use AI in your portfolio project can go a very long way.
So put a real person with three fingers.
Making sure that you have a good use of
I'm
AI, I would
just
say,
kidding.
but
Yeah,
yeah, those
that's a
pictures are hilarious.
good recommendation though. Because you can tell when people, I mean, for right now, I can tell when it's a real person and an AI image.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
will,
super useful for writing, for developing assessments.
yeah.
So we're developing like simulations for scenario-based learning.
Mhm.
Um, so instead of having to like build program a branching scenario, like Josie has a complaint.
Yeah.
What would like a choose your own adventure? The generative AI chatbot can just lead someone through a scenario. Um, so it's pretty amazing how what it can do for the instructional design work, but then also pretty amazing what it can do for the the student facing, um, the actual kind of learning materials too.
Yeah.
So we're just like at the start of experimenting with it.
All right, and I think that brings us to our time. I want to thank Mandy and Corey for coming. It was so awesome to have both of you back in different capacities, and even more awesome that now I know Daisy's going to come back when she's ready to chat and share about how the new job is going. That just makes my day. All right, everybody, have an awesome evening, and I will see you guys hopefully all back here on April 1st. And I'll make sure to send that cookbook link in the email that you guys get tomorrow. Have a wonderful
Alrighty.
evening. Thank you.
Thank you.